I play red. Normally, we do quite a bit of travelling, especially around Europe, obviously. We go to a lot of art galleries, we see a lot of really interesting stuff, and obviously that's not been possible. So, to try and recreate some of that, today we're going to be looking at Atelier, the painter studio from AEG. Let's try and recreate some of those amazing works of art. In Atelier, players take on the role of 19th century master painters, using dice to instruct students and acquire paint in order to recreate masterpieces. The game is played over a series of rounds. Players take turns using one or more dice until all players have used all 4 of their dice, and then the round ends. Take the dice back, pass the start player and start a new round. At the start of your turn, roll your active dice and you must perform one of 2 actions. You can either use one of your dice to take the actions as listed on the player board. If you do that, move your dice onto the board and it's exhausted for the round. You can also spend any dice in order to gain an inspiration token. Also, in your turn, you may spend your inspiration tokens, or you can use powers on paintings you've already created. For example here, on your turn, you may use 2 dice to take any action. If all your dice are spent, it's the end of your round for now. Your dice actions are actually shown on the player board. Now, the player boards are these rather nifty palettes, which are a very nice thematic choice. It also explains everything you can do really nicely here. On a dice roll of a 1 or a 2, you can place a student. So let's use my number 1, pop that there, and place a student on some paint. Red, obviously. On a 3, you can move students of other players. If orange had some students here, I can move orange's students to there. If there are multiple players, you can move up to 1 student of each colour between the paints. You don't have to move all players. It depends what's helpful for you. That's a 3. On a number 4, I can collect paint. Now, collecting paint, I can collect paint from any supply where I have the majority of students. So, in this example here, I could take a green and a red. If orange was collecting paint, they'd take blue and yellow. And that's why moving the students around is quite important. On a 5, I can paint a painting. Now, here is what I need to paint it. So actually, going back to this one, I need 1 red and 1 green. So I put the red and the green paint back in the supply, and I take this card and place it in front of me, and immediately we restock. On a 6, I can gain paint from any of the piles. So in this case, I could take a blue paint because it's unlikely I'm going to get that because orange has the majority. As well as the dice actions, you can also take inspiration actions using your inspiration tokens. So you can spend 1 token to re-roll any active dice. So if I'd just used my 1, I could use 1 token and re-roll my dice and see what I get. I could spend 2 inspiration tokens, 2, to paint a painting. So if I had enough paint, I could choose that as an action. Alternatively, I can spend 3 inspiration tokens to draw a patron card. I just draw 1 from the top of the deck, have a look at it, and pop it face down in front of me. Now these will give you points at the end of the game based on specific types of paintings or paintings with certain colours. They all make sense. So this one is worth VPs based on the number of romantic paintings I have, which this one isn't. But we pop that face down and keep that until the end of the game. Let's have a look at some painting cards in more details. So let's grab the child's bath, for example. Here we have the cost to paint it. So in this case, it will cost 3 green and 3 red paint. There's also an additional cost shown here. This means you have to remove 2 students. So in this case, it would have to be the one from my red and green, and I'd take those away and pop them back on my board. So quite a few of the paintings have this as a requirement. The points value of the card is shown in the bottom corner here. These will score at the end of the game. Then we have the ability. So this one actually happens as you paint it. So as soon as you take it, you're going to gain 2 inspiration tokens. Then you have your category of painting. I briefly mentioned romantic paintings earlier. Each painting has a little symbol in this bottom corner that represents the type of painting it is. This one here is an impressionist painting. We then have post-impressionist, we have realism, and we have romantic. And we actually managed to get one of each out. Ooh, that's a miracle. So the minute you take a painting from the display, it's immediately restocked. The other thing that you look for at the top here is this little star. This indicates it's a masterpiece, and you'll need to keep track of that for the game end condition. So we'll pop that, well, let's pretend I paid for it, and pop that into my tableau. The end of the game is triggered if a player paints 3 masterpiece paintings. Remember the little stars at the top? If you're the first player to paint 3 masterpieces, you're going to get this token, which is worth 4 points. Once someone has their 3 masterpieces, the game end is triggered, you're going to complete the current round and play 1 more round. Then you're going to score the points on the bottom of your painting cards, your patron cards, and potentially your master token if you were the person to get that. Add up all your points and the player with the most is the winner. In case of a tie, the player with the most paint left on their board wins. Atelier is a beautiful game. Obviously, it's about art. All of the paintings actually have the name of the painting and the artist at the bottom of the card. So if you're so inclined, you can do a bit of research and have a look into them. The other thing that's lovely is these player boards. These little palettes are gorgeous, and they're also a really good player aid, telling you what you can do. The other thing that's worth mentioning is this rule book. This is very much like the sort of brochure or something you'd see at a museum. I don't necessarily like the weird some stuff on the back, but the presentation is really nice. Atelier is a really good school night game. If you've got some time to kill, if you're waiting for people to turn up. It's not the heaviest game out there by any means, but it's just really pleasant and lovely. And there's a feeling of achievement when you manage to paint some of the bigger pieces. It's quite simple, but it's also quite lovely. It reminds me of something like Tokaido or Takanoko. There's just a feeling of warmth and beauty from it. Really, that's what you've got to expect about a game about painting. Hope you enjoyed this walkthrough. If you did, click like and subscribe. Come and say hello on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I play red. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.